With most of the major moves of the NBA offseason done, most of the big free agents are already picked as well. The question becomes about who legitimately got better. Not necessarily the loudest move, but who won the most headlines, which team actually made the most improvements on their roster. We'll talk a little bit about that. Plus, the teams that actually got worse over the course of this offseason. So, of course, we're going to talk Miami, Philly, Boston, the Lakers, a few of these teams. We're even going to give a few honorable mentions. We'll talk about all that plus more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Sync.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of the Full Court Podcast. My name is Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at the Full Court YT on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get to this content for today, y'all. So, I want to start talking about teams that got better over the course of this offseason. Talk about the teams that got worse. And number one, I got to still give the Miami Heat. Now, while I don't think the Miami Heat all of a sudden became some phenom across the Eastern Conference or anything like that, I do think that, they made one of the biggest moves of this offseason. They got the best player that moved, overall this offseason, and a player that's still in their prime and still one of the top players in the NBA. And they were able to keep Bam Adebayo in that. And so while Bam and Giannis and Davion Mitchell create like this elite defensive team with that, this is still a superstar league, right? And while they lack some shooting and some other things on this team that I have no doubt that they're still going to try to acquire between now and the end of this, before the playoffs, it's still, when you look at them, like they got the best player. They got the best player. And, while, yes, they gave up Tyler Hero, Jaime Jaquez, Khalil Ware, Kasparis Jokic-Chunas, also lost Norman Powell over the course of the offseason. The shooting and the half-court spacing is going to be a real problem for them. No doubt about that. But Giannis and Bam together, they do have something in this. Like, this is a top-heavy roster that's going to need to find a way, either through players that get bought out or whatever else to add depth to this team. But for some reason, I think Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra are going to find a way to get there. You can question the shooting all day. You can't question the headline, though. You can't question that Miami got Giannis without giving up Bam. That's a win, and they made serious improvements on their team. Next up, the Philadelphia 76ers. Some label this team the scariest team in the East. Now, I'm not there, right? I don't think that they are head and shoulders the best team in the Eastern Conference. I think still, the Detroit Pistons, if they keep Jalen Duren and actually play better, they can give them a little bit of fit. The New York Knicks are still the best team. And look, don't overlook the Indiana Pacers as well once Tyrese Halliburton is fully back up and running. But with Jaylen Brown, you got a player that's in his prime, that's a two-way player and wing there. LeBron James gives them playmaking. He gives them, the ability to make players better that he's on the court with. I would not be surprised if he ends up being the stagger guy with some of those bench players. Anfernee Simons adds perimeter shooting to this team, and you already are adding that to Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe. They now have more help than ever. And don't overlook VJ Edgecombe either in the way that he can still, he's only going into his second year. Who knows? He can blossom. Those VJ Edgecombe with LeBron James minutes, I'm excited to see. The talent level of this team is clearly championship caliber. There's just no doubt about that. But there is still risk. Of course, you already have the inherent risk of Joel Embiid. Any team that Joel Embiid's on, there's an inherent risk there. Is he going to be healthy at the most important time? LeBron James's age is another risk in regards to that one. And then there's a lot of players that all kind of need the ball with only one ball to go around. Now, typically, you like to think the talent can figure that out. And more times than not, I think that does hold true. The talent figure out a way to get it done. And the East is going to be stronger than ever. But the Philadelphia 76ers, if they do all click, and even if it takes a little while, but once it all starts clicking for this team, there's no doubt that this team could be absolutely dangerous. And it could be. While I just said at the start of this, I don't have them as my favorite team coming out the East or anything like that. That could definitely change with the way that once the season gets on, that could change easily for this team, right? To where they are looked at as the favorites, to where you do look at them and you say, hey, who's going to be better than the Miami Heat? There's a complete possibility, the Miami Heat, then the Philadelphia 76ers. There's a complete world in which that happens. You look at, they lost Paul George, Quentin Grimes, Kelly Oubre Jr., Andre Drummond, Dalen Terry. Who cares about that? But, adding Dean Wade, too, I think, to this team is another one. I didn't even mention him as a high-level role player and probably one of their better defenders as well. It's there. This is going to be a really, really good basketball team. Next up, you guys know I was going to put my team on it, the Chicago Bulls. not only because they added Nick Claxton and Norman Powell, they re-signed Zach Collins, they drafted Caleb Wilson at number 4 overall, right? And I think when you look at it, yeah, Caleb Wilson was slated as the 4th best player in this draft, but this is a team that finally found their direction with Bryson Graham, a new head coach. So much has changed with that team. I think they've gotten clearly better. And of course, they've now provided better structure around like Josh Giddey, who I think this roster is really set to really either for him to thrive at or to him get exposed at. One or the other is going to happen with Josh Giddey, for this season. I think also like Caleb Wilson, what he does, what him and Modest can end up turning into together long term. This team isn't win now though, right? They're not win now, but I do think this is a bridge offseason where they got the right young talent to build around, to add depth, those type of things. They got better defensive structure, they got a better head coach, and they got a better vision, but also they got the right veterans in there with maintaining future flexibility that I think's there. The guard rotation and the shooting balance are some of the biggest concerns for this Bulls team, especially in the half court, and we'll see how they overcome that. Caleb Wilson, who looked like a much better shooter than expected in Summer League, maybe that helps fix some of that. Josh Giddey's taking a step as a shooter, but the shooting is probably going to be the swing thing here for the Chicago Bulls. How well they can play even when the shots aren't falling because of the defensive structure they have there is going to be there. Next up, the Los Angeles Lakers. They re-signed Austin Reeves, added Walker Kessler, Quentin Grimes, Colin Sexton, Mahmoud to this team, Kevon Looney, Matisse Thybulle, Zaire Williams, and Jaden Hardy. In that, they lost LeBron James, DeAndre Ayton, Rui Hachimura, Luke Kennard, Marcus Smart. But I say you this one. While losing LeBron James is absolutely huge, this team has, despite what Stephen A. Smith would tell you, they've rebuilt this roster around Luka in a way that makes basketball sense. Now, how good they're going to be, we'll see. But Walker Kessler gives them elite rim protection, really solid rebounding as well. How much of a lob threat he is, we'll see. I do think he has more offensive ceiling than what he showed with Utah because they've been tanking his whole time there. Quentin Grimes, I think, gives them a solid two-way guard that is going to give effort on the defensive side of the ball, can hit some shots. The one question that they have is at that wing forward-ish position, but, we'll see what happens. The biggest concern here is that with Reeves and Kessler now, both being expensive, either these contracts can age badly or they can age glowingly, but they have a what they think is a lot of balance here. And one of the teams that's probably my most favorite out this list is the Atlanta Hawks. I absolutely love what the Atlanta Hawks did this offseason. Re-signing CJ McCollum on a 1-year deal, bringing in Jock Landale, I like him. They added Lou Dort and Aaron Wiggins, both players with championship experience for a team that's ready to make that next step. I like adding Devin Carter to see what he can turn into as well. And they lost Zachary Richard. No harm, no foul. I love the fact that they were willing to move off a former number 1 overall pick, didn't make a big deal about it, moved on, and they got better players. I love what they've done here as well as building around Jalen Johnson. This is a season now where they get to really take a hard look at can Jalen Johnson really be that offensive hub that it looked like he's been able to be? And if you can, how do you continue to build around that and develop it? They gotten deeper, they gotten tougher, they gotten more versatile defensively. Lou Dort gives them a point of attack defender that can guard on the perimeter and in the paint. Wiggins gives them a real rotational wing that can shoot, spread the floor. CJ McCollum, we know what he means, and he could be a nice mentor as well for the draft pick of this year. Also, I just love what the Atlanta Hawks have done. I think that the Atlanta Hawks have done a really good job. And Kingston Fleming's getting a year behind to learn behind CJ McCollum at minimum. I really do like that for them as well. I think that they've done an excellent job at winning this offseason. But then let's flip it and look at the losers. Number 1, it has to be the Milwaukee Bucks, right? And I say the Bucks here because you lost the best player in the offseason. That's it. Now you added Jaime Jaquez, Tyler Hero, Kasparis Jokic, Khalil Ware, Karis LeVert, right? I think you retained several depth pieces here. I think long term, the Milwaukee Bucks here, they have some things that they can work with here. Is Nate Amit going to work out for you? We'll see, right? But they went from being a team that was built around a generational talent now to a collection of talent that you just don't know how it's going to fit. They still got business left to do with some players on this roster that just don't fit their timeline now, that I'm sure they're hoping teams are going to come like Miles Turner, Kyle Kuzma. They're going to hope teams come calling for those. Hell, teams could come calling for Jaime Jaquez. But I love Ryan Rollins still on this team. So, we're going to see what they end up turning into. But the Milwaukee Bucks, because they lost Giannis, they have to be one of the worst teams. Next up, the Boston Celtics. And it just gets worse and worse for the Boston Celtics. When you hear how this whole thing devolved for them, why they were out of the Giannis thing and then turn around and trade Jaylen Brown, Jaylen Brown and talk with, other teams they had some talks with the Golden State Warriors. They went into this one and or it seems like they were determined to move Jaylen Brown, whether we realize or not, because the contract, the ceiling, the apron, all those type of things. But from a pure basketball perspective, they got considerably worse. They did. Yes, Paul George is a player that still can help them with their style of play. I like that. I like Mitchell Robinson for what he is. But overall, this team, it still is going to be solid, and I still think they're going to be a playoff team in the Eastern Conference. But there's just no doubt about it to me that the ceiling has been lowered some, and that's a problem. Next up, the Charlotte Hornets. I initially was fine with what and I'm still overall fine. I think the Charlotte Hornets made a bet for the future. They're taking a momentary step back to take a more long-term step forward. But losing LaMelo Ball, Miles Bridges, Josh Green, you re-signed Kobe White, you added Naz Reid, Grayson Allen, Dorian Finney-Smith. Of course, you drafted Christian Anderson as well. And so you've added some players to this team that you're going to see, you're going to develop, all those type of things. But at the same time, like, you lost a top-end offensive creator in LaMelo Ball, and it seems like your team's going to take a step back. Now, maybe they do it through committee and they work out and they're perfectly fine between now and the end of the season, but there's no doubt about it that there's some big questions about what that's going to look like for them. Next up, the Memphis Grizzlies. You lost Ja Morant, Santi Aldama, KCP. You added Jeremy Grant, D'Angelo Russell, Isaiah Stewart, Chris Murray, AJ Johnson, Quentin Post. Yes, you drafted Cam Boozer at number 3, which is great for this team. And I think he's going to have a runway for a lot of things to go through him. A lot of players are going to play off him. You have him and Cedric Howard as young players to really continue to build with and around. And Cam Boozer does soften what happened a lot. But there's no doubt that the Memphis Grizzlies gotten considerably worse on paper, even though they weren't a great team per record last season. But and they didn't get a lot back for Ja. They just didn't. That's the way that the value dictated. It is what it is there. But this is a team that won 25 games last season. And some could say, hey, they're probably going to win more than 25 games. And I actually wouldn't even argue you down that much if you were to make that conversation. But, in regards to that, I think you just have to look at it and say, they've gotten worse this season. Next up, the Los Angeles Clippers. You added Brandon Ingram, which is probably not going to be there long term. You added Grady Dick, who hasn't really looked like much. You added Rui Hachimura, which is interesting. You lost Kawhi Leonard, if that deal actually goes through, which is a question here. Bogdanovich, John Collins, all those guys are gone as well. I think now, once the Kawhi Leonard trade is finalized, the Clippers went from a team that you could squint your eyes and say, hey, they could be a contender if Kawhi stays healthy, to a team that now is in like a major rebuild. And they need to embrace it. You got Keaton Wagler in this draft, which could end up being great for you. But at the end of the day, like, it's time. Like, this Clippers team seems still too tied to not just completely bottom out and tank out. And we'll see. But they have definitely gotten worse. And, this is going to be a team that's going to be a really rough season for the Los Angeles Clippers this year. But that in the long term, may be the best thing for them. But in the short term, they absolutely got worse. Then you look at teams that are right on the line, like the borderline teams. The Toronto Raptors, once the Kawhi Leonard deal finalizes, they're absolutely, I think, are going to be a winner. I think that they can be a contender in the Eastern Conference, absolutely. The Minnesota Timberwolves were a borderline team also, because adding LaMelo Ball is a huge swing, but they lost Naz Reid. They lost Julius Randle. They have no front court depth right now at all. And even their GM is saying, we're not done making moves because of the lack of front court depth, so I can't really make them a winner until that's complete. The Washington Wizards got AJ DeBonta, which is a huge move for them. Like, huge move. But the Trae Young, the DeAndre Ayton, the Chris Middleton, like, this roster is like, the fit is really chaotic with this roster. I don't know how it's going to work out, but we'll wait and see how it bores out during the season. And then the Golden State Warriors. They kept trying to squeeze one more year out, and reportedly they're still trying to do that. But this is a team that it needs to embrace the fact that it's done. It's done. Now, that doesn't mean that you trade Steph or trade Dre or anything like that, but like, this was a team that still was trying to squeeze more juice out of an orange that has been completely depleted, and it just seems like it's not going to work out for them. So those were the teams that are right on the line. We'll see what the season ends up bringing for those guys, but that's going to do it for today's episode. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys sound off down below. Who are your winners and losers of the NBA offseason so far? Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at The Full Court YT on every social media platform. Send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. The Full Court NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the #1 spot for everything basketball and NBA related. And I'll catch you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
been a presentation of the Breaks Media.